is the UPSC's role.
So what happens in those situations? Does the UPSC just kind of shrug their shoulders and move on, or do they push back a little bit?
Well, they don't have the authority to overrule the government.
Right.
They can certainly make their concerns known.
Okay.
They can issue public statements, release reports, highlighting the potential consequences of ignoring their advice. And they can even reach out to other institutions, like the judiciary or even the media, to raise awareness about the issue.
So they're not completely powerless.
Right.
They can use their platform to advocate for what they believe is right.
Exactly.
Even if they can't force the government's hand.
Absolutely. And that's a crucial aspect of their role.
Yeah.
Acting as a watchdog for merit and good governance.
Yeah.
Even when it's challenging.
Speaking of challenging situations, we talked about the potential for conflict between the UPSC and the Central Vigilance Commission, or the CVC.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So both the UPSC and the CVC play a role in disciplinary matters related to civil servants.
Right.
So the UPSC provides advice on the process, the potential penalties, while the CVC actually investigates allegations of corruption and misconduct.
So you can imagine there's potential for friction there.
There is.
If the two bodies don't agree.
Absolutely. And it's something that has happened in the past.
Yeah.
Leading to delays, confusion, and even accusations of interference.
It's like a bureaucratic tug of war.
It can be.
But who ultimately resolves those conflicts?
Well, in theory, the government has the final say.
Okay.
But in practice, it can get quite messy.
Right.
Especially if there are strong personalities involved or if the case has political implications.
Right, like everything else. It sounds like navigating those complexities is a key part of the UPSC's role.
It is.
But are there any areas where the UPSC's power is specifically limited?
Yes, there are.
Okay, where their advice is just not sought.
Right. One significant area is the matter of reservations in government jobs.
Oh, interesting.
So the UPSC doesn't have a say in policies related to reserving positions for specific groups like, those from the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes.
Okay.
That's a decision that is made solely by the government.
So even though the UPSC is all about ensuring a merit-based system, they don't get to weigh in on the policies. That directly impacts the composition of the civil services workforce.
That's right. And there are other examples. They're not typically involved in selections for certain high-profile positions like chairmanships of commissions or tribunals. The same goes for top-level diplomatic posts. And for a large chunk of Group C and Group D services, which are considered lower-level positions.
Gotcha.
The UPSC isn't typically consulted in the recruitment process.
So there are definite boundaries to their authority.
Yes.
It's like they've carved out this space for the UPSC to operate within.
Exactly.
But there are certain areas where they're just not allowed to tread.
Precisely. And understanding those limitations is crucial both for aspiring civil servants and for the general public.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. But at the end of the day, what's the big picture takeaway here? What's the UPSC's core purpose in all of this?
At its heart, the UPSC is the guardian of merit in India's civil services. Their primary function is to ensure a fair and transparent system for recruiting and promoting talented individuals into these really crucial roles. They act as a buffer against favoritism and political influence, striving to create a bureaucracy that truly serves the nation's interests.
So it's like they're the admissions committee for a top university.
Yeah.
Selecting the best and brightest.
Right.
To join the ranks of India's governing elite.
That's a good analogy, but remember the UPSC is also responsible for shaping the careers of those individuals once they've entered the system. Ensuring that promotions are based on performance. And that any disciplinary actions are fair and transparent.
So they're not just selecting the players, they're setting the rules of the game.
Exactly.
Making sure it's played fairly.
You got it. And that's a huge responsibility considering the vastness and complexity of India's bureaucracy.
Speaking of complexity, let's circle back. To the concept of misbehavior as grounds for removing a UPSC member. It's such a fascinating and honestly a little bit of a nebulous term.
You're right. It is rather vague, and that vagueness has been the subject of much debate and legal interpretation over the years.
I bet.
But it also highlights the challenges the UPSC faces. Walking that fine line between independence and accountability.
Because too much vagueness could potentially be used to target individuals
who
are simply doing their jobs diligently, maybe even ruffling a few feathers along the way.
Exactly. And that's why the Supreme Court's role in adjudicating these cases is so crucial.
Right.
They need to ensure that the term misbehavior isn't weaponized for political ends, but rather used to uphold the integrity and impartiality of the UPSC.
So it's not just about black and white rules, it's about judgment calls.
It is.
And understanding the context in which those actions took place.
Precisely. And for aspiring civil servants, understanding this nuanced aspect of the UPSC is crucial.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of not just acquiring knowledge, but also developing a strong ethical compass.
Right.
A sense of what's right and wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
Those qualities will be tested throughout your career.
It's a reminder that even in a system designed to be as objective and meritocratic as possible, human judgment and ethical considerations still play a vital role.
Absolutely. And it's up to all of us, whether we're aspiring civil servants, seasoned bureaucrats, or simply engaged citizens.
We all have a role to play.
To ensure that those in power are held to the highest ethical standards.
Beautifully put. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to bring it back to our listeners who are preparing for the UPSC exam.
Okay.
Knowing all this, how does it change their perspective on their preparation?
Well, for one thing, it underscores the importance of not just rote learning, but truly understanding the concepts and the reasoning behind them. The exam isn't just about testing your knowledge. It's about assessing your ability to think critically and apply those concepts to real-world situations.
So it's not enough to just memorize the functions of the UPSC or the grounds for removal of a member.
You need to be able to analyze those things, debate their merits, and form your own opinions.
It sounds like it's really about connecting it back to those real-world scenarios.
Exactly.
And making sure that it's not just rote memorization, but really understanding what's going on.
And that's where the true value of preparation lies. It's not just about getting through the exam. It's about developing the skills and the mindset that will make you an effective and ethical civil servant.
It's about becoming the kind of leader that embodies the values that the UPSC itself stands for.
Well said. And remember, the examiners are not just looking for candidates who can regurgitate facts and figures.
No.
They're looking for individuals who have the potential to be ethical leaders, who can navigate the complexities of governance with integrity and a commitment to serving the nation.
So it's not just about what you know.
No.
It's about who you are.
Exactly. And that's why understanding the culture of the UPSC, the values that drive its work, is so crucial for aspiring civil servants.
This has been incredibly insightful.
It has.
I feel like we've really peeled back the layers of the UPSC.
We have.
Revealing not just its formal structure, but also its heart and soul.
I agree. And I hope it's inspired our listeners to not only prepare for the exam, but also to reflect on the kind of civil servant they want to be, the kind of impact they want to make on the world.
Beautifully put. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Yes, I think we've given our listeners plenty to ponder.
All right, we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the world of the UPSC.
Yes.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the structure and functions to the challenges and ethical considerations. But before we go, we promised to delve into something a bit more nuanced. The informal aspects, the human side of this powerful institution.
Yeah, that's right. We've talked about the rules, the regulations, the formal processes. But what about the culture within the UPSC itself? The values, the beliefs, the unspoken norms that shape the decision-making process. Those informal factors can be just as important as the formal structures when it comes to understanding how the UPSC operates.
I'm all ears. What kind of culture are we talking about? Is it super competitive, cutthroat, or more collaborative and collegial?
Well, it's a mix, as with any large organization. But I think one thing that really stands out is the strong emphasis on integrity and impartiality. It's not just a slogan, it's really deeply embedded in the culture of the UPSC.
Makes sense. I mean, they are the guardians of meritocracy. Responsible for selecting individuals who will hold immense power.
They will.
Within the government, they need to be above reproach.
Exactly. And that's why The selection process for UPSC members is so rigorous.
Yeah.
They're not just looking for intellectual brilliance or technical expertise.
Right.
They're looking for individuals with a strong moral compass, a proven track record of ethical conduct.
So how do they actually foster that culture of integrity once someone joins the UPSC?
Right.
Is it just assumed that everyone will behave ethically?
Sure.
Or are there specific mechanisms in place?
Well, there are definitely formal codes of conduct.
Yeah.
And ethics guidelines that all members are expected to adhere to.
Right.
But beyond that, it's also about setting a tone from the top.
Yeah.
Creating an environment where ethical behavior is not just expected, but celebrated.
So it's about leadership by example.
Absolutely. And it's about peer accountability.
Okay.
You know, UPSC members work closely together. They're debating complex issues, making tough decisions.
Right.
They need to be able to trust each other.
Sure.
And that trust is built on a shared commitment to integrity and impartiality.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be real, even in the best of organizations,
Right.
there's always the potential for groupthink, for biases to creep in,
Sure.
for individuals to be swayed by personal relationships or political pressure.
Yeah.
How does the UPSC guard against that?
It's a constant challenge, and there's no easy answer.
Right.
But one thing they do is they really encourage dissent.
Okay.
Open debate, a willingness to challenge assumptions.
Right.
They recognize that the best decisions are made when diverse perspectives are heard and considered.
So it's about creating a space where people feel comfortable speaking their minds.
Yes.
Even if it means disagreeing with the majority or challenging the status quo.
Exactly. And it's also about having mechanisms for whistleblowing,
Okay.
for reporting any potential misconduct without fear of retaliation.
Right.
They want to make sure that anyone who witnesses unethical behavior feels empowered to speak up.
That's reassuring. It's good to know that they take these issues seriously.
Then they do.
But for our listeners who are preparing for the UPSC exam, how does understanding these informal aspects help them?
Well, for one thing, it gives them a more holistic understanding of the institution they're aspiring to join.
Okay.
It's not just a faceless bureaucracy.
Right.
It's a collection of individuals, each with their own values, beliefs, and experiences.
So it's about seeing the human side of the UPSC.
Exactly. And it's also about recognizing that success in the civil services isn't just about technical competence.
Right.
It's about character integrity, a commitment to serving the public good.
It's about embodying those values that we've been talking about.
Absolutely.
Both in your preparation for the exam and in your future career.
Well said. And remember, the examiners aren't just looking for candidates who can regurgitate facts and figures.
Right.
They're looking for individuals who have the potential to be ethical leaders,
Yeah.
who can navigate the complexities of governance with integrity
Yeah.
and a commitment to serving the nation.
So it's not just about what you know, it's about who you are.
Exactly. And that's why understanding the culture of the UPSC, the values that drive its work, is so crucial for aspiring civil servants.
This has been incredibly insightful. I feel like we've really peeled back the layers of the UPSC.
We have.
Revealing not just its formal structure, but also its heart and soul.
I agree. And I hope it's inspired our listeners to not only prepare for the exam, but to also reflect on the kind of civil servant they want to be.
Right.
The kind of impact they want to make on the world.
Beautifully put. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the UPSC.
Yes, I think we've given our listeners plenty to ponder.
To all our aspiring civil servants out there,
Right.
best of luck on your journey. Remember, it's not just about the destination. It's about the journey itself. Embrace the challenges, stay true to your values, and never stop learning.
And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's given you a new appreciation for the complexities and the importance of the UPSC and its role in shaping India's future.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing and those ambitions soaring.